Hi, I'm Jacques Venter. I'm the founder of Gannet, Gannet Drone Fishing and dronefishing.com. My personal background goes way back into the early 90s. I started at a mining engineering company designing underground winches for gold and platinum mines, stope scraping winches, locomotive shunting winches. When I was, I think, about 22, I came up with my first patent. I didn't even know what a patent is. I designed this innovative contraption to clean inside the sewer pipes in Sasol, which ranged from 6-inch up to 48-inch pipes. It's massive pipes. I went home, got the parts together. The next day I came to the office and I actually built a little working model of this contraption that can expand and collapse as you pull it through the pipes and not get stuck, because that was a major design criteria of this thing. I built this thing and I took it to my boss and I said, this is how it will work. He instantly saw the advantage of it, and I became the registered designer of my first patent at age 22. From there on in, I left the mining company 3 years later, and I went to work on a construction site in another country, in Namibia. From there I came back and worked for a company doing pneumatic conveying systems for power stations. There I learned a lot about piping, and at that stage I was setting the trend in 3D CAD. I entered some of my designs into a design competition and won Best Industrial Design in Africa for my work that I did for Majuba Power Station, which was massive drawings, doing all the piping and structures from where it comes out of the precepts right up to the ash silos and discharge. From there the CAD guys grabbed me, because I was literally setting the standards of what CAD can actually do at that stage. That was back in 1996. So from there the CAD guys grabbed me and I started, I actually taught CAD, and I started my own CAD training center where I taught 3D CAD to most of the major CAD houses in South Africa, from Iscor to Columbus Steel. From the CAD industry, I went back into design because design is my passion. I'm a creator, I'm an innovator. I like to make new things. Something that doesn't exist, solving problems that people see as unsolvable, I like to solve. So I joined the R&D team of a furnace design company. That was back in 1997. I worked for this company for 3 years, and I designed a piece of furnace equipment that that company is still selling today, 20 years later. To date I've got over 40 patents to my name. A lot of them in the furnace industry, where I specialized for over a decade of my life. Almost 1.5 decades of my life went to furnace industry. So there, the furnace industry is maybe the toughest industry in the world. The equipment I designed there could survive at temperatures in excess of 3,000 degrees Celsius. You need to water cool it, you need high thermal conductivities. It's a very specialized, small industry in the world. It's my industrial engineering background that enables me to solve problems. I was one of the co-founders of Metix, where I was the technology director of Metix, a smelter design company. In 2010 we were turning over $100 million per annum in turnover for Metix, where we were the lead smelter design company in the world. And in 2011 we were approached by a German conglomerate who bought us out. And by 2011 I found myself as semi-retired. So for 5 years I traveled the world and basically retired on the beach. Fishing is my passion. I fish a lot. Unfortunately, in front of my house, where I have a deck facing the beach, there's only small sand sharks, and the sandbar stretches for over 200 meters into the ocean, and you cannot cast over it. It's not possible. You cannot wade to there. If you want to get a line out, you need to get on a paddle ski and take it out to get it past the sandbar. So in 2016 I bought my son a drone for his birthday, a Phantom 3, and then I heard about guys in Australia fishing with a drone. tying an elastic band to the drone and tying the elastic band to the fishing line, and then taking the line out into the ocean, have a drone pull one way and they pull the other way, and then eventually break the elastic band and the bait is in the water. I knew that that's not a good idea. I knew that that's a sure way of sinking a drone. Looked around on YouTube a little bit and I found other videos of oaks rigging up coat hangers onto the drone, hooking your line onto the coat hanger, fly that out, then you fly it out, turn the drone around and the coat hanger unhooks and your line is in the water. It took me 5 minutes to rig that system up, flew the line out, and by the 10th drop my reel had a problem and I didn't have time to turn the drone around and it sank the drone. It happened in seconds. The drone was in the water. I was distraught. My son was extremely unhappy because he just lost his favorite toy. So I was pushed to buy him another drone. At that stage the Phantom 4 was just launched and I bought him a replacement Phantom 4. He refused that I put a coat hanger back on that drone. That was out of a question. So we switched over to a downrigger clip. We took a downrigger clip, put that on the drone, suspended below the drone, and we started flying out baits that way. And it was an instant success because with a coat hanger, we were on fish the very first cast. So we knew the fish was just other side that sandbar. The downrigger clip, that worked as well. And as I always like to push limits. I took the bait load up higher and higher and higher. And about a week later, I almost sank my son's second drone. The downrigger clip didn't want to release and it almost sank the drone. The drone went into oscillations and headed to the water, and I started jerking on the rod. Fortunately, I was lucky enough to get it to release, but that was the last cast that I did with a downrigger clip. I knew that this was also a bad idea. A downrigger clip is just not reliable enough to take a big bait out on a drone. I innovated and I came up with a release system that worked on a Phantom. You can press a button on a remote. On the back of a remote you can program those buttons on the Phantom or DJI drones to switch the arm lights off. So it's a simple question of using a light sensor, and you can trigger a servo. Servo pulls a pin and that's it, you drop your line. I quickly mocked up one. It took me a couple of days and I had one mocked up from carving a body out of balsa wood. It took me a couple of days to realize that this is something that the world needs. Coat hangers sink drones, downrigger clips sink drones. So a couple of weeks later I started producing what is now known as Gannets. We have sold thousands of them all over the world. The first sale came 8 hours after release. After I opened my website, 8 hours later I had a sale from Texas. And it just grew from there to more and more and more. We had to innovate because the pin system is not ideal for releasing baits. If you lock the line in, it's locked, and if you do have trouble with your fishing line, your reel jams or the line hooks on the rocks, or even just the line drags in the water, the drag becomes too much for a small drone and your drone gets dragged down into the water. Beginning 2019 we switched over to mechanical release systems that you can set where the line is held by 2 stainless steel ball bearings, forced together with a spring, and you can adjust the spring to within grams of an accurate setting that you can repeatedly release exactly where you want. So if your drone is able to lift up 1 kilogram, you can set this thing to release every time below that 1 kilogram threshold. If you've got a small drone that can only lift 500 grams, you can set it to 400 grams and it will release every time. So you know your drone is safe. Every time something bad happens, a pelican flies into the line, a seagull flies into the line, this thing will release. Having the electric side, people also like to release with pressing a button. So later this year we came up with the Gannet Export. The Gannet Export combines the ideal mechanical release with the ability to also electrically release, and that's a Gannet Export that is now available on the Phantoms. Those have been shipping now for about a month. They're doing very well. I myself personally have had it where I was flying out a big shark bait on a Phantom, and beyond the breakers, 400 meters out, I was still flying forward at quite a speed, and the reel jammed. And as it had to do, it simply released. Drone was safe. I returned the drone home and kept on fishing without a hitch. The Gannet drone's design alone is currently far over 1,000 hours of my personal hours gone into the actual physical design of the drone. We try to bring into it design features that is simply not available in anything else. Aerodynamics is extremely important. This is a delivery drone. It needs to cut through the air. It needs to take a load, carry a load, and take it as far as you need it to go and drop it there. So aerodynamics is extremely important. Waterproofing is extremely important. Guys that fish in all sorts of weather, and they fish in conditions that most high-tech equipment pieces will not last. So you need a waterproof drone. You need the remote to be waterproof, fully waterproof, sandproof. That if you throw sand on the control sticks, you simply pick it up, shake it off, and keep on flying. If sand is in the control sticks of a standard drone, they get stuck, and then your drone does things that it shouldn't do. A fishing drone or a search and rescue drone will work in environments that a standard drone is just not suited for. If you want to drop a 2 kilogram life jacket or life buoy out to people that is out one kilometer into the ocean or away from a boat, you need a reliable drone that can do this. So you need long flight times. Flight times of over 20 minutes is an absolute requirement with load. There's specific challenges with waterproof drones. Right, to have a waterproof drone, a sealed drone that can actually land in the water and take off from water, or land in the water upside down, turn itself around and fly again, it needs to be a completely sealed unit. Now, there is a handful of waterproof drones in the world currently. Drones are quite unique in the world. To control the altitude of a drone, how high it is, a drone's flight controller uses the atmospheric pressure. So a drone needs to sense atmospheric pressure at all times. When a drone goes up, the pressure goes down. The flight controller knows that, and it counters by having a drone descend. If a drone descends, the pressure rises in the sensor, and therefore it knows it's busy descending, and it counters by thrusting the motors up, bringing the drone back up to where it should be. That's how almost all drones control altitude. Now, having a waterproof drone, one that can actually land in water upside down, doesn't matter which way around, and take off again and fly again, is actually incredibly difficult, because you now need to seal the entire drone off. You need to seal the electronics off so it cannot sense the atmospheric pressure. So there is a handful of drones in the world that has worked on solving this problem. One way of doing this is using a permeable membrane. So you put a permeable membrane somewhere on the drone, and the electronics inside the drone also heat up. When these electronics heat up, it heats up the air around these electronics, and that air expands, so it has to leave a drone. You have to have a drone breathe. So these permeable membranes allow the air to escape out of a drone, but it keeps the pressure the same inside and outside the drone, but the pressure remains the same. So the drone knows how high it is. The problem with these membranes is that once they get wet, they seal off. So now the drone actually cannot control altitude. So a permeable membrane is the wrong way of doing it. And also, if a drone like that happens to fall in the water, it starts to cool down. When it cools down, the air inside the drone shrinks, and that then will draw water into the electronics of a drone. So water seeps into the drone through this permeable membrane. So a permeable membrane is the wrong way of doing it. Somebody else has come up with the idea of using a syringe and sticking a tampon in there and letting the flight controller breathe through a small hole in there, and if that then falls in the water, the tampon hopefully sucks up the water that gets drawn in, and that is not a sustainable way of doing it. So what we have done is we actually came up with a flight bladder. We have a hole in the drone where it's connected to a flight bladder, expandable membrane inside the drone, and as the pressure increases in the drone, the bladder gets squashed and it squeezes the air out of the bladder. As the
Vice versa, if the pressure outside the drone increases, the bladder inside the drone increases in size and it increases the pressure inside the drone. So it balances the pressure perfectly. What that also does is, if water happens to enter into this bladder, it does nothing. The electronics in the drone is still 100% safe. Water vapor cannot even reach the electronics. So your electronics can actually be sealed off completely. You can even have a little silicone bag in there to make sure they stay dry. But you can have no corrosion whatsoever on the drone electronics. This idea is unique in the drone world. There's nothing else has ever done this before. So we have gone ahead and registered pending patents, which we will definitely take forward for all the major markets and also obviously manufacturing markets, China, to try to protect our intellectual property. When we started Gannet, we were the first people out in the world to make drone release systems. Now we look around and there's 30 or more companies that has copied our designs. As we move forward, we change, we upgrade, we make better designs, better, safer release systems. And we want to do the same for the drones. We want to have the best drone in the world that is protecting your investment as best as possible. We make release systems for many different drones. Perhaps more than 20 different drones have release systems from Gannet. So people around the world is fishing with almost every imaginable drone. However, all these drones have one thing in common. They are actually not made to fish in bad weather. They're not made, if they happen to do land in water, that's it, they're finished. Almost all of them are killed. So you lose your money. And fishing, things can go wrong. The battery runs out, whatever, the drone lands in the water, you've lost your money. We as Gannet saw that there's a gap in the market to address, to have a fishing drone that is reliable, that can land in the water, take off from the water, but if anything goes wrong, your investment is safe. You can retrieve it, go get your drone. It's a huge investment. Over $1,000 is a lot of money to spend on a piece of fishing gear. Drone fishing itself has exploded worldwide. We have exported to the vast majority of a planet, have bought from us, from Russia to even China, Singapore to Canada to America to Brazil, Mexico. Every country in the world has bought release systems from us. So we know that the people are drone fishing worldwide. It is becoming a trend. The guys in New Zealand fly out 25 hooks a kilometer into the sea. This is how we catch snapper. It's a pastime there. I mean, you can drone fish, you can catch fish, but you typically would have had to had a boat. You need to rent a boat or buy a boat, go out into the deep water to go catch yourself dinner. Now you can do it from the beach. No more seasickness. No more use of fuel. I mean, the fuel that you can use on a fishing boat in a day is almost as much as one of these drones. So it's just a cheaper, better way of doing it. And fishing is, face it, it's one of the world's best pastimes. I know that in America, 65 million people bass fish. You can spend it with your family, and if you are fishing from a beach, your family can be with you. Yeah, it's fish that is now within reach. Mahi is typically never caught from a beach. Now you can take a live bait out, you can drop it 500 meters from a beach on a balloon rig to have your live bait floating within reach of mahi and marlin and sailfish, tuna. All those fish that you typically can only catch from a boat, you can now catch from a beach in a safe and easy way. Payloads on these drones are actually quite important. Most fishermen will be happy with a 500 gram payload, but most species can be caught like that, especially the type that you want to have for dinner tonight. So a small drone, you need a small drone, but there's more out there. We decided that we will bring out two different models. One drone that can take a payload up to 2 kilograms, which is quite a big bait. That will cover most people in the world. But there is guys in New Zealand that want to fly heavier loads further out, like the long lines they do there, the Kontiki fishing. For those guys and for the specialized shark fishermen that like to go out and put out really, really big baits, we brought out the Gannet Pro. That can take a payload of up to 3.5 kilograms. It can actually lift 6 kilograms, but a safe payload of 3.5 kilograms. The design of this drone is unique in the world. There is no other drone that looks like this and flies like this. When this drone takes off from the ground, it's actually hanging at an angle. It looks like it's going uphill. That is done on purpose so that when it is in forward flight, the body becomes horizontal and it gets the smallest possible cross section. That means it can cut through the air better than any other drone out there. So we can fly in wind conditions that no other drone can do. We focused extreme amount of energy on aerodynamics, both for forward flight and also for aerodynamics from the prop wash down, because these are actually flying helicopters with four rotors on them. So the downward aerodynamics is important, very important, and as is the forward aerodynamics. Fishing, you fish in any weather, or flying out a life buoy to somebody in trouble. The wind can be from any side. So all aerodynamics is important, but this is not a flying camera. All other drones, or most other drones in the world, was designed as a flying camera platform, which is omnidirectional. These are not. These are designed as a delivery drone flying forward, taking load out as far as possible and doing the delivery. If it happens to be bait, it's bait. If it's a life jacket, it's a life jacket. And another important factor of this drone is that we wanted the camera to be internal in the drone. We want it sealed off. We do not want a gimbal that is working outside in the salt environment. You can design a corrosion resistant camera, but in the end the sea will get the better of it. So the only way to really protect the camera is to put it internal in a plastic housing, make sure that all the moving parts is sealed away from the salt and the corrosion of the ocean. So that's why we house it inside a dome, in the nose of the camera, in front, so that props is out of the way and that you can see what's going on. We put it on a 2-axis gimbal so that you can tilt and pan it up and down at will. And because it's a gimbaled camera, no matter which way the wind blows, the camera will be horizontal. Your horizon will be horizontal. As this is a delivery or a search and rescue drone, we felt that 1080p camera is more than well suited for this purpose. If you happen to want to have 4K video, strap a 1, 2, 3, 4 GoPros on this drone, and you can have 360 view in 4K video. This drone has a DJI brain in it, and all the flight controls is managed by the DJI NASA MV2 controller. We did this for reliability. We do not want drones to fly away or lose control. This is a big investment. You want your drone to be stable. Many guys that fish don't want to use their telephone to see how far they are, what the drone battery is, and so on. So we designed the remote to have all the telemetry, the vital statistics of a drone is displayed directly on an LCD on the remote. So you have distance, height, number of satellites, GPS lock, and also the drone battery life. One of the most important things there possibly can be on the drone is displayed directly on the remote. It is your choice if you want to connect a smart device to the remote. You can have, if you have your telephone or tablet connected to it, you can have your map and the live video feed on the telephone. If you don't want your telephone connected, don't. Just fly with the remote on its own. It does not need a smart device to function. It's a full freestanding unit. As all modern drones, this drone is auto return home. So if you switch off a remote or lose signal from your remote, the drone would automatically return home. If you had a payload on at that stage, it would drop the payload and return home. You don't want it to fly back home with a 3 kilogram load dangling from it. If you are fishing, you can switch over to auto return home. The drone will fly itself back home and land itself next to you from the takeoff point. The lifesaver can leave the drone, run and rescue the person, and the drone will sort itself out. If a battery runs low, it will return home and land. Because it's a drone, it's an autonomous system, it can handle itself, it can return home and land.
One of the features, or one of the design features that we focused on when designing this drone is having the propellers high up and a body low down. It comes from being able to land in the water and take off from the water, but that also lends itself to easy hand catch and hand launch. Something that is actually quite a vital thing, especially if you are on a boat. Launching a drone from a moving deck of a boat is actually very dangerous because the flight controller doesn't know what's happening even though the boat is rocking up and down on the swells. It is safer to take it off out of your hand. Returning back home, it is also if a boat is rocking about too much, it would be much safer to let the drone land in water next to the boat and then retrieve a drone from the water. It eliminates all the possibilities of crashing this thing and injuring people. Same goes if you are on a rocky ledge in areas where there is just no level area to take off from or land. Simply do it in your hand. The high props make it very safe, and the narrow body makes it that your hand can wrap around the body easily, and you can easily have a secure hold on a drone to make it safe. The worst day that we have fished in so far with this drone has been winds with average speeds over 40 kilometers an hour, gusting 55 kilometers an hour. Due to the aerodynamics, this drone handles that quite easily. It's not a problem at all, although I would personally never fish in weather like that. There is some crazy people out there that like to fish in any weather. For search and rescue missions, you don't want to be hampered with a drone that cannot fly in winds in excess of 40 kilometers an hour. People are in need in any weather, so the more wind this drone can handle, the better it can serve the community.